The air in Doha was thick with heat, but for one family it was filled with relief. After 238 days of fear and silence, Peter and Barbie Reynolds were finally free. They stepped into the Qatari sunshine, frail but upright, and saw their daughter, Sarah. Months of separation melted away in a desperate, tearful embrace. This was more than a reunion, it was the end of a nightmare. Peter and Barbie, both in their 70s, had spent nearly 2 decades in Afghanistan, calling it home. Their ordeal left them visibly changed, a stark reminder of life's fragility. They thanked the Qataris and British officials whose efforts brought them here. Beneath the gratitude, the weight of what they'd lost was clear. The world watched as a family, stretched to its limit, was pieced back together. Tears flowed, not just for joy, but for release from months of anxiety. For Sarah and her siblings, the fight was over, but a new challenge began, helping their parents heal. The scars of captivity, physical and psychological, would take time to fade. But in that Doha sun, there was only this, a daughter holding her parents. It was the first step away from the shadows of captivity. The long separation was over, but the story of what happened inside those prison walls was just beginning. Their embrace became a symbol of hope and resilience. In that quiet moment, love and strength spoke louder than words. Who were Peter and Barbie Reynolds? Not diplomats, not soldiers, just an elderly British couple who fell in love with Afghanistan. For nearly 20 years, they called Bamiyan province home, far from Kabul's fortified compounds. They saw Afghanistan's beauty and its people's potential. Their mission was simple: run a small charitable training program, teaching practical skills to locals. It wasn't a grand NGO, just 2 people, building connections and hope. Their work was approved by the Taliban authorities. They had the paperwork, followed the rules, and believed they were safe. They weren't just visitors, they considered themselves part of the community. Their life was a testament to cultural exchange and human connection. They saw the humanity beyond the headlines, investing their later years in Afghanistan's future. That's what made their arrest so bewildering and tragic. They dedicated themselves to a country they loved, only to have it turn on them. Their story is a reminder of the risks in volatile regions, but also of love and commitment. They weren't naive, they knew Afghanistan's complexities, but they chose to stay, to contribute, to belong. That dedication made them vulnerable, turning a journey of compassion into a terrifying ordeal. In the end, it was their very commitment that put them in harm's way. February 1st, 2025 began like any other for the Reynolds, but ended in chaos. Without warning, Taliban forces arrested them, along with their Afghan interpreter Juya and an American friend. No explanation, no charges, just the sudden terror of being taken by one of the world's most feared regimes. Their carefully built life crumbled in an instant. They had official permissions, had done nothing wrong. The arrest was swift and arbitrary, plunging them into fear and uncertainty. One moment they were running a training program, the next they were prisoners. Their American friend was released in March, a small glimmer of hope. But for Peter, Barbie and Juya, the ordeal dragged on. Moved between locations, their fate unknown, their family in the UK faced agonizing uncertainty. Every day brought new fears. Were they safe? Would they ever come home? The lack of information was its own torture. The trust they'd placed in the system was shattered. Now they were at the mercy of their captors, their lives hanging in the balance. The day of their arrest marked the end of safety and the start of a nightmare. 8 months in Taliban custody became a living nightmare for Peter and Barbie Reynolds. Barbie later described the pain of seeing her elderly husband in chains, a brutal image of their ordeal. They were moved between prisons, sometimes held underground, cut off from daylight and hope. The psychological toll was immense: endless darkness, isolation and fear. Poor sanitation, lack of comfort and constant pressure wore them down. Every day was a battle for survival, a struggle to hold on to hope. Despite the harsh conditions, Barbie mentioned moments of unexpected kindness from some guards. But nothing could erase the suffering or the inhumanity of their confinement. Their endurance was tested to the very brink. The brutal conditions quickly took a toll on the couple's health. Peter suffered convulsions and a mini-stroke, life-threatening for anyone, especially in a primitive cell. Malnutrition weakened them, making every day a fight for survival. Barbie watched helplessly as Peter's health declined, her fear constant. In this desperate situation, Julia, their interpreter, became Peter's caregiver. She managed his symptoms as best she could, providing comfort where there was none. Her courage and compassion were a lifeline, highlighting the shocking lack of medical care. They were left to fend for themselves, relying on each other to survive. Peter's survival was a miracle, a testament to resilience, love, and Julia's selflessness. Their ordeal is a stark reminder of the human cost of captivity. Peter and Barbie's release was no act of mercy. It was the result of months of intense diplomacy. Qatari mediators played a vital role, bridging the gap between the UK and the Taliban. The UK government worked tirelessly behind the scenes, applying pressure and negotiating for their freedom. It was a delicate dance. Patience, cultural understanding, and persistence were key. The collaboration between Qatar and the UK unlocked the door to the Reynolds cell. Their freedom is a testament to the power of dialogue, even in the most hopeless situations. For the Reynolds family, the diplomats' efforts were nothing short of heroic. Their relief was matched only by gratitude for those who fought for their parents' return. One of the cruelest parts of the Reynolds ordeal was the uncertainty. To this day, the reason for their detention remains a mystery. The Taliban claimed they broke Afghan laws, but never said which ones. Peter and Barbie were never formally charged or told what they'd done. The ambiguity was its own form of torture. The Taliban said a judicial process was completed, but the family questioned its fairness. There was no proper interpretation, no real defense. Their arrest felt arbitrary, almost nonsensical, despite their efforts to follow every rule. Was it political leverage, a mistake? No one knows. The unanswered question leaves a void where closure should be. Their lives were upended for a reason never given, a chilling reminder of how fragile freedom can be. As the world celebrated Peter and Barbie's freedom, one person was missing, Julia, their Afghan interpreter and friend. She had shared their ordeal, cared for Peter and risked everything, but when release came, she was left behind, her fate unknown. The Reynolds' joy is tempered by deep concern for her safety. Julia's story is a somber reminder of the risks faced by local Afghans who work with foreigners. She is not just a footnote, she is a central figure whose own chapter remains unwritten. Her continued detention raises hard questions about who gets saved and who is forgotten. The hope is that the world's attention will not move on until she too is free. Until then, the Reynolds' relief is incomplete. Even after all they've endured, Peter and Barbie Reynolds still dream of returning to Afghanistan. Their love for the country and its people remains unbroken. For now, though, the focus is on recovery, restoring their health and healing from trauma. The journey home is more than a flight from Doha. It's a long path toward peace and normalcy. Their family, who fought so hard for their release, now helps them rebuild. The reunion in Doha was just the beginning of this new chapter. Simple joys, meals together, conversations without fear, are their medicine. Their story is one of hardship, but also of hope and resilience. They survived the unimaginable, and now, step by step, they're finding their way back to the light. The long road home is underway, guided by love, family, and the promise of healing.